Introducing health and wellness advocate, veteran international real estate investment expert, author and speaker, Adiel Gorel.
Health tips, fitness tips, nutrition and well-being, world-class experts, all right here on my podcast, The Adiel Gorel Show. I want to ask you, so coconut oil seems to be a good fat to add to stuff just to get this good fat. What about what they call coconut milk? Not scooped, not from the actual nut, but when they sell it at Whole Foods, let's say, and it says coconut milk. You look at it, there are some other, what do you think about that?
I can't say that I'm an expert on coconut milk. I don't drink it, but are you saying that there's additives like carrageenan and things like that in there?
There are certain things. I somehow believe, and especially based on that, coconut oil would be a better, addition than what we call a coconut milk.
Yeah, and I think that, it's true, it's going to be more highly concentrated in those rich fats that you want. And of course, you can get the coconut cream, and stir some tablespoons of that in your food to, thicken it up and add some nice flavor and some good fats. But the milk is not going to be as concentrated. I mean, you wouldn't say, oh, I'm getting all my healthy fats by having some coconut milk, right?
What about the avocado as a, I believe it's technically, what is it, a fruit? Avocado. Yeah, it's for. Yeah. What about avocados?
Yes, they're very high in healthy fats as well. So yes, that's a wonderful thing. And, if you live in California or Florida and you can grow some avocado trees, that would be great. But yes, they're a good fat.
Okay, so we know about the healthy fats, decent ratio, of omega-3 to 6, no processed food as much as we can. Of course, we all eat out. Right. When you go out, you have no control over what you eat. Maybe people got healthier during the COVID because we had to stay in.
Yes, and no, that's been, people are writing those cases up in our medical groups that, when people stop eating out, they stopped reacting to things. And so there are definitely people that are much healthier because they were forced to stop eating out. So you're right, it's just a crapshoot when you eat out, and, they're going to use, the cheapest oils. And so, some of these processed oils are inflammatory and they go rancid easily, and they can make things worse instead of better. Like the canola oil is one that has, a lot of problems, but it's cheap. So it's tended to be used in restaurants. Right.
So that's a distinction that needs to be made. Some people, even the words could be misleading. Like we said before, the word fat, I'm not fat. Okay. So it's like vegetable. Oh, that's a good word. That's a vegetable. Oil. So vegetable oil, people say, no, that's but it's not healthy.
Right. Exactly. The stuff that came in the 60s and all the processed oils are not healthy. They are pro-inflammatory. There's a level, and, what is it? Safflower is a little less than sunflower oil, and, but in general, if you have the choice, the extra virgin olive oil, go for this pure, fresh olive oils that are organic, that are cold pressed. And the olive oils, you want to use your olive oil up. You don't want to keep it for 2 years because it is going to turn rancid. And it will be inflammatory.
Okay, again, we have viewers who are vegan, who are vegetarian, but let's talk about eggs for a second. Assuming healthy eggs, of course, the free range. Yes. The chicken read books every day. They do push-ups, stuff like that.
Yoga.
What do you think of yoga? Yeah. What do you think of those eggs?
Yeah. Well, some people say eggs is God's perfect protein. The mix of amino acids that are the building blocks of our protein is a beautiful mix in the egg. So if you don't have an egg intolerance, it's a wonderful thing to eat, and can be incorporated in all kinds of ways.
Okay, now let's move on from the foods themselves. We know veggies are good. Fruits could be healthy, but we have to watch the sugar content and stuff like this. We would rather not eat the juices, but the fruit itself with all the fiber.
Right.
Fiber is critical too, right?
Fiber is critical. Let's say a little bit about fiber, because fiber is what feeds our probiotics. And I think most people these days have become familiar with the notion of probiotics. They're the healthy bacteria within us, and they do all kinds of things for us. They outcompete invading bacteria, but they also help us to extract our nutrients. They're helping to break down the food. They're creating short-chain fatty acids. And the short-chain fatty acids are made by our probiotics breaking down our fiber. And the short-chain fatty acids have hugely important roles in the gut because they're the fuel sources for the gut. So we need to have high levels of butyrate and acetate and propionate, and so the fiber is an amazing thing. And there is a tribe in Africa called the Hadza tribe that has no chronic disease. They don't have heart disease, and they don't have diabetes. They don't have dementia. They don't have depression. And the scientists said, well, what is their secret, right? We all need the secret.
Well, they don't have Netflix. No, please go on. Yeah.
So yes, we should segue into exercise next, but they found out that let me just start by saying that we are advised to eat 50 grams of fiber a day.
50.
50, and that's not easy to do except for vegetarians. You have to be conscious about getting your fiber. But the Hadza tribe eats 200 grams of fiber a day. So they're eating, they're hunter-gatherers, they're eating, tubers and roots and berries and a lot of fiber. And there's a backup, study for this in real life. There's another tribe in the Amazon that's similar. And both of these groups have the most diversity in their microbiome in their gut of anyone. And it's related to the fiber. So the fiber is going to fuel the diversity in our gut, which is clearly now related to health.
What kind of fiber can we? So, the Hanzas are very healthy and very gassy people, probably, with all of this fiber, but it's okay. Worth it for sure. So if we want to supplement with fiber, what can you, grapefruit, pectin, what would you recommend?
Yeah, well, obviously, first, whatever you can get from your food is first off the best, right? And there's lots of fibrous vegetables. And you mentioned even if you're going to juice that you want to have the fiber with that. So the more vegetables you eat, that's the easy part, the more fiber. If you need additional fiber, there's different fibers that you can purchase and stir into your, water and drink down. There's one that I like that's it's super clean. It doesn't taste like anything. So you can stir it in, and if you're taking your supplements and vitamins, you can just do that. It's called, it's by Master Supplements, and it's called True Fiber, TRU Fiber. So that's just one of my personal favorites. There's, oh gosh, what's the name of it? There's another one that it's eluding me at the moment, but there's definitely a lot of healthy fibers made from different sources. And there's the I'm losing my train of thought on that. But anyway, to me, in general, first off, try to get it from your food.
Naturally.
But if you need additional fiber, you can definitely, the places that sell good supplements, there's quite a few different fiber lines.
Okay, we talked about food. Now let's talk about the way that we eat. I know that you talk about, intermittent fasting. You're not, the only one. I live that life. A lot of people have discovered about intermittent fasting. One question related to what we just said: if you eat your food in a window of 8 hours a day only, or maybe 6 hours, for people like myself who like to have a fairly large meal, that usually it's only 2 meals, which is fine, maybe with a snack. Are we going to be able to get all the fiber that we need with only a couple of meals?
Well, it depends what you're eating in that meal, right? So if you're eating processed food, there's no fiber.
No,
but
assuming, but yeah.
Right. Well, it might be a useful experiment to look at that. There's an app on the cell phone you can get called Chronometer. And in Chronometer, you can put in what you're eating, and they can calculate those kind of things for you in the different foods. And it can show you, it might be worth for a day or two looking at, putting in the stuff in there and seeing how much fiber did I really eat today? Do I need more? And maybe you can change up your snack and, have some things that are higher fiber, cut up the vegetables and have some jicama,
Let me ask you this. You talked before about broccoli,
yeah.
and you said that you can use pills or powder that has this, broccoli.
Yes.
Will that have the fiber?
I don't think it's going to have sufficient fiber because it's processed into a pill, and and it's not a high volume. So you're looking for the bulk with the fiber.
Yeah. So big salads. I found that in the winter when it's cold, I just have stir-fried veggies, which are warm. But so now let's talk about the intermittent fasting. In your opinion, from the brain viewpoint,
Yes.
Can you talk about that for just a second?
Sure. Let's say a little bit of words about ketogenesis or a ketogenic diet, because the idea of fasting is to shift you from burning sugar to burning fat. And beyond that, it's not just the burning the fat, but it induces processes called autophagy that are helping our body to break down and take out bad stuff that is accumulated. So we've known for a century now that when somebody is in a ketogenic state, it changes their brain function. And a ketogenic state is when you shift from burning sugar as fuel to burning fat as fuel. So those are our two fuel sources for our body. And if we don't have enough sugar, and remember carbs equals sugar, all the same thing, carbs break down right away to sugar. If you don't have enough sugar, then your body will start burning fat. And so for the purposes of the brain, we learned with children that had intractable seizures that couldn't be controlled with medication, that if you put them into a ketogenic state, it can quiet down that overactivity and that inflammation that's happening in their brain that's causing seizures. So that was the first big clue that it does things in the brain. Now, some of my patients that are having cognitive problems, when they eat a ketogenic diet, they just feel clarity in their brain. Their brain just wakes up. Not everybody has this, but a lot of people have it. They feel more energy than eating all the sugar.
Okay, let me ask you this. So keto became quite well known and liked in the past decade, but in the past few years, people say it's got to be modified keto, not 100% of the time keto. Some people even say that we should have rice in it. I mean, break it up. It's like up and down, like a cycle.
Right. So we don't really know. I mean, that will be, I'm sure, getting more data. Is long-term keto bad? Is modified keto better? We don't know. And at some point, you have to just go with what is your body telling you, right? I mean, I just finished a dementia clinical trial using a functional medicine approach, and it was required for our trial, for those 9 months of the trial, that you maintain ketosis. That was the part of the study. And at the end of the study, I spoke with each of my patients and we talked about where would they go from here. And I said, experiment now, take a couple days a week and, eat some higher carb foods, some sweet potatoes and, things that are good for you, but, that are going to take you out of ketosis, and see how you feel. Right. And so some of it is, there's not a one size fits all diet. We have to, do with what works for us.
Okay. So we talked about keto, but let's go just to fasting. Keto can be achieved without necessarily fasting. You just eat a certain type of food. But let's talk about the benefit of fasting and, the autophagy. Yeah.
Sure. So, the less calories you eat, the longer you live. That's very clearly known. So, the tendency to eat more and overeat and have bigger portion sizes is probably going to shorten your life. And so the idea of fasting is twofold, because it is going to be less calories that are going to, all the cascades that happen. Maybe it's the work to break those down. I can't say that I'm an expert in exactly why, but I just know without a shadow of a doubt, it increases your longevity. But when you fast for a number of hours, then you're depriving your body of sugar and you're going to be shifting into this ketosis state. So, you're going to get the benefits of ketosis without necessarily doing it all the time. And so, what we do now is we suggest people first start by restricting their calories to 12 hours a day. And if you're okay with that, go to 11, go to 10. And I saw that in my study with my patients. They were required to do intermittent fasting. And fasting a couple years ago meant 2 days a week with like very low calorie. And that's hard to sustain for too long. Yeah. But, now we've shifted to this notion of compressing the calories. It's called time restricted feeding or time restricted eating. And the idea is then that if you don't eat for a period of time, you're going to shift into this ketosis state that also induces the autophagy that is helping to call out, inflammatory and destructive things in our body.
Okay, so I would like you, if you don't mind, it's an area that many of our viewers may not have a lot of information on, but you talked about it before briefly. Saunas, sweating. Nowadays, we can actually buy a small sauna for our own home. It's not a luxury item anymore.
Right.
Can you talk about, I know it's going to be, an infrared sauna, but it's confusing out there. There is far infrared and near infrared and mid infrared and red, which is outside. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the purposes first of the sauna for detoxification is sweating, right? We've had this in many of our traditional cultures, the Indian sweat lodges, the baths, but the sweating has always been considered tonifying, purifying, detoxifying. So, the wisdom of the people before us. And as I mentioned, the idea of sweating is your toxins, it's been measured. There's a brilliant MD PhD researcher in Canada that's shown us quite clearly the data that you can diminish your metal levels, your chemical levels. So before even considering the heat source, any kind of sweating, you do hot yoga, you exercise vigorously and you're sweating, you're detoxifying. But let me say the caveat is you want to have a towel and you want to be wiping off that sweat as it comes because you don't want it to reabsorb. You've just mobilized those toxins. So wipe them off. And then as soon as you're finished, either your sauna or your exercise, go jump in the shower and get some soap and eliminate those toxins.
Preferably a cold shower, right?
Well, not everybody can do the cold shower, but,
I'm just saying.
That's another can of worms with
but still. So we talked about, the far infrared will heat you up to make you sweat. Right. But they talked about near infrared. There's a whole camp to talk about near. Do you know something about that? Can you?
Yeah. So the infrared, what happens is it's going to penetrate. Some penetrates farther into our skin than the other. But both the near and the far infrared have been shown to penetrate enough to stimulate our mitochondria. And our mitochondria are, in every cell except our red blood cells, and those are they call them our powerhouses. They're generating energy. They're going through all the machinations to give us cellular energy to drive all our processes. And we lose mitochondria with aging. We lose mitochondria when we have diseases. We lose mitochondria with any kind of insult. So we want to love and nurture and support our mitochondria. And so both the near and the far infrared can help, but it's differing levels that they will penetrate into the skin. So some of the higher end saunas will have a combination of
and even there's some people are saying it's not effective. We're not going to go deep into that, but suffice it to say the far infrared is what makes you hot to sweat.
Yes, and so again, the number one goal first off is sweating. But the number two, of course, we do know that light and the phototherapy is a fascinating area of research, and we're using phototherapy devices on the head, and some people have major cognitive improvements, and we're in our infancy with that. But light is a powerful healer. I'm just going to grab this. I want to see if I can show this. What catalog is this? Sharper image. I mean, people can get saunas that look like this, and they're inexpensive. and the caveat is, and this one on Sharper Image, I saved it because I wanted to write them and ask them if they knew about the EMF levels.
Exactly.
This is $300. It's $300.
Yeah, but you know,
And
the EMF.
right. So, you know, the EMFs, you know, we're getting another newer area that we're learning. We're getting bombarded with, you know, all of our Wi-Fi and things. And some people that are, you know, we have the canaries in the coal mine that are sensitive to that and are getting sick from that. And how much EMF is too much EMF? Well, it might be different for me than for you, but at some point, you know, we now live in a very different world with these waves of energy and electricity coming through our body. And, you know, just like the phototherapy does things, those are, you know, those are waves of energy that are changing our bodies. So, you know, the thinking is to try as much as possible to, you know, protect ourselves, you know, from EMFs and not get bombarded with it. So the idea of if you're doing a sauna every day and sitting in something that's generating a lot of EMFs, I think the net gain still of sweating may offset the EMFs.
Yeah, but you don't have to buy a $300 sauna. There are saunas that have lower, you know, EMF. They may cost a little bit more, but they're not, you know, beyond anybody's reach necessarily. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The you know, EMF.
Well, and there was one we used to recommend that was a low EMF, one that was just like what I showed you, and it was $300. And then a year ago, they shifted it to $1,600.
Oh.
And I wrote them and I go, how could you do this? I was recommending your sauna to many, many people, and I'm not doing it anymore, you know? So, I mean, that's a little heat source, and you sit on a chair and you surround yourself in that bubble. It's not expensive. The question is, you know, what can they do to shield that heat source from the EMFs?
So this is hardly a subject that you can cover in 1 minute, but you say dementia is not a death sentence.
Right.
You have a book out called Demystifying Dementia. So,
Dementia Demystified, and it's not out yet.
My dementia is so bad that I called it backwards already. But so, I mean, people can get the book. What if people want to get more of your great knowledge? Obviously, we won't have time for all of it. But one of the messages is dementia is not the end of the road. It's not, that's it. It's only downhill from here. You are living proof of that.
Oh,
And
my big dog is waking up. It's just playtime.
Big dog is already, yeah. Well, you trained him when he hears the word dementia. He just gets, yeah, he gets all crazy. So how can people reach all your great knowledge? Do you have a website?
Yes, I do have a website, and you can go to dementiademystified.com, and that's the name of the book. And I'm working on it. I was sidetracked this last year and a half by my clinical trial, so I'm now trying to finish that. And I also have a YouTube channel where I try to put some of my talks, and I, you know, even have more technical talk that I give to, you know, medical organizations. It goes through all the various layers that we work with when people do have problems. So if you just put my name, Cat Toups or Cat Toups MD on YouTube, you'll find that.
And what about a website just to read? Do you have a website like that just to read some of your materials?
I don't have that much on my website. You know, I'm not blogging on there, but I have a Facebook group. If you put my name, Cat Toups MD, and it comes up functional medicine, psychiatry, and dementia. I try to post interesting research and things that are promising rather than things that are negative on there. And you know, but in all of my sites, we're working hard on our data analysis for the study, and I think that's going to be really exciting to people to see how quickly and how much we were able to reverse dementia for a majority of our patients in this clinical trial. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be super exciting. And so obviously we want to prevent all the things that we talked about. You know, we want to, and we didn't even get to talk about exercise. Hopefully you'll have somebody else.
Well, let me talk about it in a minute, just 1 minute.
Yes.
You already mentioned exercise and the benefit it gives you by sweating, but now what importance relatively does weightlifting and strength training carry vis-a-vis what we are talking about?
Well, let me just digress and say the best way to change your brain is exercise and meditation. Those two things will increase your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which makes new neurons in your brain. So if you've had any insults, we all need to keep doing things to keep re-stimulating our brain. Exercise and any kind of mindfulness. It doesn't have to be meditation per se. It can be Tai Chi, Qigong, going with a walk in nature. So with exercise, I think that is our best hedge against aging overall. You've got to be moving. And, I know so many people were sitting home with COVID and everybody's gained 10 pounds. So it just shows us our basic movement out and about in the world is helping. But the idea of aerobics and strength training, we want both. We need both. So the strength training is very important, especially with aging, right? Because people tend to lose their strength with age. And if you become a frail elderly person, you're going to fall, you're going to break a hip, and it's not a pretty way to go. So keeping your core strength and your muscular strength is very important, and it helps muscle burns more fat than fat. So you burn more calories. You're more energetically good if you're more muscular. And then you want to have the aerobic as well, because we need its oxygenation and it's all the cascades that happen with that. And these days we've also incorporated high intensity interval training. And that is really just for 1 minute or maybe 2 minutes, but even 1 minute of just whatever you're doing, you step it up and you push it to your peak for 1 minute, the hardest you can go to where you feel like you're going to throw up. And the metabolic benefits of that are huge. It just changes people. They've done studies now where they had people do no exercise, but 1 minute of high intensity interval training a day, older people, and it changed their blood sugar.
Probably they should start with 5 seconds.
Okay.
Next time, maybe 10 seconds, and build
course.
up to a whole minute, because a minute is a long time.
Yes, it's true. So even if you're a walker, if you're walking and you go out walking, then just say, okay, I'm gonna, for a few seconds, I'm gonna just walk as fast as I can. And you see how quickly you get winded. We don't want your heart rate to go up too high. That's a different, thing. But now there's beautiful information about your VO2 max and keeping your heart rate in zone 2. And, and as you age, let's see, I'm 61 and my zone 2 is only about 96 for my heart rate. It's not that high. So when I exercise, it's, often going higher than that, especially if I haven't been consistent. And so people are tracking their sleep with Oura rings and sleep devices. And it's pretty clear that if you are exercising too hard, it will impact your quality of your sleep. And sleep is another huge way that our brain detoxifies. So we've learned that the lymphatics, which is our lymphatic system in our brain that drains the toxins each night, happens when we sleep. And if we're not getting good sleep and we're not getting enough hours of sleep, then please work with somebody if you need help with that. Be sure you get tested for sleep apnea. That's another huge problem with aging. And sleep apnea can now be tested with home sleep studies. You don't have to go to a sleep lab. So those are all factors I think that can happen.
Listen, I feel a little frustrated because you are bursting with so much useful information.
I have more to say.
I know you do, but we are going to have to cut it here. Yes. But we will bring you back later on because you have so much to share. Kat, I want to thank you so much for all your knowledge and sharing and being so generous.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And thank you for all that you're doing to help people with their health. And, it's a gift that you're giving to people. So thank you.
And by the way, we have a book from the TV show that we did, the PBS special called Life 201, where Kat has an amazing chapter full of information and tips and what to do. So get in touch with us if you want that book. And then, of course, your book that is upcoming. Kat, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me today. Click the subscribe button for more video. Got a question or comment? I love questions and comments. Leave yours below. And here's another video you've got to see.